I can't believe they banned the chain gun in the sequels. Maybe it was the gross rate of fire, secondary rocket launcher, or that using it's a war crime.
Yeah, motherfuckers! Come and get it while it's hot!
Oh well. Like a regular Barracuda, but only more acidic. Hello everyone, today we're looking at Killzone. First things first, why is it called Killzone? I have no goddamn idea, and Google can't even tell me. Sure, it's a notable title, but at least Halo involves something actually called Halo. Speaking of which, is this game better than Halo 1? Probably not. The only problem was, 1 week after Killzone 1 released, Bungie replied with "Hold my beer." Yeah, Killzone 1 never stood a chance, but I enjoyed it. I'll admit I have a soft spot for PS2 games, but the main reason I wanted to play this was to test run capturing PS2 footage and upscaling it, doubling the frame rate, and sharpening it. Overall, the results came out pretty good. Now you might ask, why would I do that? Well, back in the day there was a game called Mercenaries. Seriously, go play it if you can. The same studio did the original 2 Star Wars Battlefronts, but then EA ruined it. Moving on, what is Killzone? It's a first-person shooter where we play as an ISA soldier fending off space invaders called the Hellgast. Said bad guys mimic a certain ideology associated with World War II, but have respiratory problems and slightly better tech. Yeah, maybe I'm being a bit vague. If you were to replace 1939 Poland with a planet named Vecta, everything fits just a little too well, if you know what I mean. So, what's good about Killzone? First, the opening cinematic is great. For 2004, this was a great way to make a first strong impression. Second, the explosive weapons are a blast. Third, given the hardware limitations of the PS2, it felt like this game did the best it could. No doubt this is not the most beautiful looking PS2 game, but it did a great job setting the bar for the series, which Killzone 2 completely missed and 3 exceeded. And yeah, there's definitely no other Killzone games. Speaking of failures, what's bad about Killzone? First, it can be repetitive and a bit of a drag in some parts. Luckily, it's not the longest game. Second, some of the environments are just simply too dark. The whole video would look like this if I didn't crank up the brightness. Third, there's basically no in-game music. Fourth, when you die, you float above your body for 5 seconds. It just looks goofy.
Luger's down!
I will mention, I would love to see this game get a proper remaster, and no, the PS3 trilogy doesn't count. I mean like a true PS5 Demon's Souls remake. I think the game would do well. Keep in mind I'm pretty biased, as I played this for 140 hours, so I'm probably pulling punches. Alright, let's get into weaponry. So, for a futuristic game, the stuff we see is actually pretty underwhelming. You know the year is 2357. You know, I was kinda hoping for sharks and frickin' laser beams. So what do we actually have? There's assault rifles, which you'd expect to see in a Modern Warfare title, and then of course we have boring handguns. We also get a silenced submachine gun. I'm not that big of a fan of it, as it's really good at missing. Also, it's super useful, you know, a stealth weapon in a game with 0 stealth. Then there's the shotgun. You know, it's nice to know 400 years later and pump action's still king. Next is the chain gun, for when you feel like blowing off a bit of steam.
Hello there.
I'm gonna need a cigarette after that. On the opposing side, the STA-3 light machine gun is used by the Hellgast. This is easily my second favorite weapon in game. It's accurate, quick to reload, and has a big ass magazine. After that, there's the Helgen sniper rifle. Insert joke about penetrating multiple men. We also get access to a squad cannon. Ah yes, the perfect tool for removing those annoying guard towers. Next is the ISA bazooka, which is kind of fun, but the Hellgast equivalent is way better. The secondary fire unloads all 3 rockets in one go. Side effects may include hearing loss or death. We also get a combat knife, which has hilarious animations. Okay then. And lastly, we have the grenade launchers. When one is enough, we have the pistol version. Then there's the M327, you know, for when you have to conduct those multiple consultations back to back. One cool thing about Killzone 1 is that most weapons have a secondary fire mode. A good example is the ISA rifle grenade launcher, which is a blast. Another one is the Helgen assault rifle, which has a single round buckshot, which can be handy in a pinch. Both of these are very risky though, as you have to immediately reload. But it does work really well when you only have one secondary round, as you can crack it off and go back to primary fire right away. One last thing on weapons was that in Killzone 1 we can carry 3 primary weapons. In the sequel they went down to 2, which drove me nuts. Now for enemies we mostly fight Hellgast, which is kinda lame. I did like that different Hellgast roles have specific outfits. For example, grunts look like this, medics look a bit more fancy, and elites look like they're Vin Diesel if he was in Mad Max. Even with different outfits for the Hellgast, the gameplay gets old really quickly. There are drones and dropships, but they're pretty rare. At least the voice acting is extremely over the top. It's almost on par with the main characters. Okay, let's talk about the plot. Here, have a spoiler warning. So, let's see what we have here. Galactic socialists invade after the ISA space defense platforms around Vecta mysteriously fail. This results in a massive ground battle to repel the Helgens from the planet. We start off battling in trenches and eventually get tasked with finding a spy named Haka, whom has critical information to win the war. Once we find him, we learn the guy in charge of the space defense platforms, aka General Adams, betrayed the ISA. Shocking, I know. Our 4 heroes then go hunt down General Adams. Speaking of our main characters, these 4 are pretty generic outside of a couple cutscenes. Honestly, you just need to know that Templar is the leader, Luger and Templar Star used to bang, Rico is a badass, and him and Haka don't get along. I will say they feel awfully disjointed versus the gameplay. From this point forward, the best way to summarize the game is a lot of Helghast try to stop us. We kill them, we get into space, kill more Helghast in space, kill General Adams, and that's it. Basically, the whole game's plot is pretty plain and vanilla for a shooter. Killzone's name doesn't really fit this mold as it's kind of generic and boring. I think a better title would have been Mediocre Zone or Somewhat Acceptable Zone. Yeah. So in summary, Killzone 1 was a decent game, but never really stood out due to its repetitive nature. For a PS2 exclusive title, it's a solid game, but I always felt like it could have been so much more, especially when you compare it to its sequels. I'm gonna have to give Killzone a C+. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you watching until the end of the video. And lastly, but most importantly, I hope you all have a great day.
Got him!
Ooh, yeah, I think I shattered his pelvis.